And welcome to another episode of Schiffbauer Over Rocks. Today we got, I might be biased, but one of your county's best, if not the best, residential realtor, Judd Gemmill, the Judd Gemmill Group. Thanks for coming on today, man.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate Casa. Is that how you say it?
Casa Cigars, yeah.
Casa Cigars, hosting this little sit down for us. So.
Yeah, I know it's a great environment. I like it because it's just like it's open.
Yep.
It's fun to have a conversation.
For sure.
It's like the perfect setting for these kind of like events and podcasts.
I'm ready to get to it.
Yeah, man. But I know we've known each other for a couple of years now. We've been working together.
It's been a while.
But I want to get into it. Just like let's talk about it. Like you're from York, Dallastown in particular. What drove you to get into real estate?
Honestly, so I'll go back to college. Mm-hmm. So went to high school at Dallastown, went to college at Penn State York, decided to play basketball there for 4 years, stay local, which I think was a very smart move on my end. And, I was sitting down at my graduation party for college, and my grandmother came up to me, and she was a realtor part-time for about 20 years or so. She's like, I really think you should get into real estate. Mm-hmm. I still had no idea what I wanted to do at this point.
Really? Going through college?
Going through college. Still had no idea.
Would you like a business, like admin degree?
I was going to go for business.
Okay.
And then I studied communications, which is probably the easiest degree to get.
It is. I ain't going to downplay it, but it really is.
If anyone out there is watching, a lot of the basketball players got a communications degree. And like I said, we were sitting there in my parents' basement, and she brought up the idea to me. And one thing that I knew that I always wanted to do was work for myself. Mm-hmm. And she proposed this idea to me, and that kind of got the ball rolling.
That's really cool, just from a family standpoint. It's like you're inspired that way. This like at least like that. You're jumping into the pool.
Yeah, for sure. And I really didn't know what I was getting into. Mm-hmm.
That's entrepreneurship in a nutshell, though.
Exactly.
Regardless if you're familiar with real estate or not, or whatever you're doing.
Exactly. And, she proposed the idea, didn't really know what all it entailed, didn't know what I had to do to get my license. I sat down with, another agent that actually went to Penn State York as well. And he kind of kickstarted me and got the ball rolling, got me, with a sit down with a manager, the company that I'm still with, Berkshire Hathaway. Started there, and obviously I'm still there now. And, sat down. She told me what I need to do as far as the classes and the licensing. And, I took that, and I think it was summer of 2016, and I was a licensed agent by December of 2016.
So looking back on it, because for those who might not know, like real estate is one of the most cutthroat, like entrepreneurial, almost like sales positions you can get into as an individual.
100%.
Especially in this marketplace in South Central Pennsylvania. There's, at one point, I know during COVID, it was like there was more realtors like than properties available.
Oh, for sure.
Like almost like tenfold.
Yep.
In terms of what was going on, like in terms of active licensing versus actual properties that could have been sold or listed.
And there's still a ton of agents out there, and it's still that way. Now, I don't know what the statistics are, what the member count was when I started, to what it is now. Mm-hmm. But
I feel like it's more probably.
Everyone knows 5 agents. You know what I mean? Everyone knows 5 real estate agents. Mm-hmm. So, it just comes down to one of those things. How are you going to separate yourself from, the rest of the pool? Over the years, I've learned how to build those relationships and connect with my people. And truthfully, like looking back on it, sports has become a big part of my business. Like the reason that I know the amount of people I do led from the sports background. Just knowing, I played AAU basketball, playing against different teams in football throughout the years. I knew a bunch of guys from Central High School. I knew a bunch of guys from, Red Line, York Suburban. The list goes on. So I think, looking back on it, like I said, that has just it totally helped my business because I feel like people recognize and, see my name and they can trust me because they've known me since, I was 13, 14 years old.
Mm-hmm. Which has a lot of resonance. I like, we talked about it off camera.
Yep.
But it sounds corny when I say this for people out there, but it's like, it's really real. Like LinkedIn. When you have on LinkedIn, like your first degree network, the people you immediately know.
Yep.
Your second degree network, people who know of you through other people than your third degree network, where you know someone, but you know somebody.
Yep.
Where I feel like you really built your book of business off. You've completely demolished that first degree in the best way possible, making those like genuine connections or reaching back out to people to build your book to the way it is today.
Yeah, and honestly, I really don't know why it came that way. Looking back on it, I think there was a couple transactions that I had, that weren't with people that I knew, and they weren't the transactions that I had with the people that I was closest with. And, the people that I'm closest with, or, the friends and family that have referred me to their friends and family, that connection's there, So a couple of the transactions that I had, that weren't with those families and friends, that's what led me to wanting to work with my family and friends, and those, that continue to refer me to those family and friends. So once I realized how smooth that those transactions go, with my key people, it makes life so much easier for the both of us. And I think it makes a smoother transaction at the end of the day.
Interesting question for you that's going to float out there. It's a competitive market. Either if you're on the buyer side or seller side. I'm sure like when you go to these appointments, they're probably talking to a couple people. Or it might be scenarios where they're talking to a couple different agents. Have you ever gotten feedback based on what made you stand apart versus other agents to like represent a particular couple or a particular individual in a transaction?
Well, I think truthfully, a lot of my appointments or, my initial connection with someone, they're not really interviewing too many other agents. There's very rare scenarios that someone goes, hey, we're bringing another agent in here. We want to see what they can do. A lot of the times, people are just reaching out. They say, hey, Judd, we want to work with you.
They have either heard about you or know that you do good work.
Exactly.
Okay.
Like they kind of already have their mind made up. Now, we do run into those scenarios, a couple times where, they're going to interview other agents, and, I'm totally okay with that. Feel out what's going to, work for you or what type of agent. And look, I'm not meant for everyone. That's just the way that it is. I'm not going to bond. I'm not going to connect with every single person out there.
And that's okay.
And that's okay.
As a service provider, I've come to terms with that.
Exactly. And there's so many times that I've gotten to the settlement table and, I might know that other person. And, I'm thinking, well, why wouldn't they have worked with me?
It's not a fit.
It's not a fit.
And it's
what
okay.
I mean? And that's totally okay. And then I see how that, they're reacting and, talking, communicating with their agent, and kind of makes sense at that point.
It's really fascinating how that plays out over time. You mentioned sports, like being a real big background for you growing up. Do you feel like you take a lot of that like competitive energy and mindset into terms of what you do professionally?
Absolutely. Yeah. Honestly, I tell people this to this day. I think sports have taught me more than anything in life.
Okay.
Just as far as showing up, putting in the work outside of, the practices or the games and stuff.
I was just talking about you today in that regard. Someone asked about how you were doing. Got lunch. And I just said, like, he's a grinder. Like, he does the work that people don't do when, like, people are like, oh, well, I'll do that tomorrow.
Yep.
You just get it done. And if it comes to the table.
That's what's been instilled at me, at a very young age. I always knew, and, credit to my family, my parents, I always knew that I had to work in order to be successful at whatever I do. It didn't matter what it was. School, getting good test grades. Not that I got all the best test grades, but, I knew that I had to work in order to do so. And it, like I said, with sports, like that to me was, you had to work out. You had to work out outside of your practices. I remember looking back on my basketball days, my sophomore year, I knew that I was supposed to be starting. I was told that in the beginning of the year as a sophomore. That's huge for our team. First scrimmage comes around, and I totally shit the bed. Sorry for my language, by the way.
Oh no, you can say whatever on here with the reason.
I might curse a couple times. So I totally shit the bed.
Yeah.
The first scrimmage, and that first scrimmage. So we didn't even get to a game yet. I got benched, and I'd never.
You were in the doghouse at that point.
I never started a game my sophomore year.
Right or wrong, the coaches and this
The
staff
coach was
just
100% correct. I deserved to be benched.
At the time, looking back on it, did you think it was deserving or undeserving?
Oh, 100% deserving.
Okay.
And
that's interesting.
The reason being is because I didn't put in the work. You could tell the guy that ended up starting over me, he put in more work than I did in the summer outside of practices. And, I kind of got in my head afterwards during that season. And I remember going up to the coach and I'm like, look, I want to play. I don't care what it is, what level that I'm playing on. So I actually ended up jumping down to junior varsity at the time. Still a sophomore. And, a lot of my friends that were, in my grade were on junior varsity. So it was kind of cool. It worked out. I got to play with them and everything. And I'll never forget it. That season ended and my junior, year, or after my sophomore year going into my junior year, I just worked like no one else was going to work. I knew that starting position was open for me. It was available for me. So I was going to work all summer on, working out, putting in the work, shooting, whatever it took to snag that starting position. Like I said, that competitiveness started way back before that.
And you channeled it into your core business now.
And like I said, I don't blame the coach at all for doing that to me. Like, I 100% deserved it.
It's probably one of the best things that ever happened to you.
Probably one of the best things that ever happened to me. And
even
like I said,
life standpoint.
It just translated right into life.
Where it's just like, even if you're bummed out at the time, it's just like looking back on it, it's crazy how these little micro moments shape
and you don't
how we end up being.
You don't realize that at that young age.
No.
You know what I mean? But
you get pissed off and jaded, like, why am I not starting?
Exactly. Now looking back on it, it's like, you know what? That was that small life lesson that I just needed. And I feel like it, kickstarted for me at that point, because up until that point, every team that I ever played on, I didn't feel like I really necessarily needed to put the work in the summer. I was just, I was good at, I was a good athlete. I could come out, I could start, and I could play basketball, I could play football, whatever it was. But, that taught me at that age, I'm like, hey, look, there's some good guys out here, and someone's on your tail all the time. So, I got to put in the work to be able to show that, I can do this.
And I think that's a really real thing with entrepreneurship, especially in your field, in terms of like building a real estate business. Someone's always can take your spot.
Yep.
And me growing up, I didn't play sports. I'm a string bean. Look at me, for God's sakes. Love my dad to death, but he's worked 60, 70, 80 hours a week, where only once in a while we were able to throw the pigskin around when I was growing up. Just something I just didn't do. But this, over time, watching friends of mine who are athletes, it just like, I try to tap into that mentality. I never really was able to fully embrace it from like the level you did.
Yep.
But it's just like, you have to operate on that level if you are going to build something as an entrepreneur, because entrepreneurship is a sport.
100%.
And I think people don't get that. When you go into something, whatever it's real estate or being a marketing service provider or doing this, they think it's just going to be a pure lifestyle business out the get-go. They're fucking wrong.
Yep.
And like, you can have that at some point. They can design it that way. But you have to put the extra work in than 100%. Somebody else.
Yep. And I mean, looking back on, the real estate career when I started, you jump out there in the pool.
Literally.
And you got no lifesaver. You know what 100%. I mean? Like, it's just you, and you got to figure out how to, it's like being a little kid. You just got to figure out how to swim.
Even if you have a team, like the training, Berkshire might offer, like a
which is great
too.
You know what I mean?
You're still, or you have to fly.
Exactly.
It's like the little baby bird getting kicked out the nest.
Like, they can get behind me, and they can give me ideas, and kick me in the butt, and and tell me what to do. But at the end of the day, that's the coolest thing about entrepreneurship is it's you. It comes down to what you're going to do, the work that you put in. And, like I said, when I started, it took me a very long time to, get to a point where I even thought that I was going to, do well in real estate. And I didn't know how long it was going to take. Mm-hmm. Looking back on it, I probably would have changed some things just to kickstart that process.
Hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah, exactly. A little sooner, but I did this obviously right after college, and being a broke college student, you don't have any money. So I decided,
I don't care where you come from. You're bootstrap.
Yeah. Unless,
whatever you're going into.
Unless your parents are feeding you money, which, you know, is a rare occasion. But,
you're Silicon Valley getting like seed money.
Yeah. And I think that was the best thing is I never really got, you know, things handed to me. Did my parents help me? Yes, 100%. But, you know, they never, in this business, it was almost like, Judd, you know, figure it out. You know,
yeah.
And I knew that
I can relate to that a lot.
I knew that I was going to. It was just a matter of
how
and when. And like I said, would I love to sped up the process a little bit? 100%. But now I look back and I go, you know, how long it took me, I think gave me the discipline.
I thought that literally last night. It's not even a cope. It's just like going through the setbacks you go through life and entrepreneurship. I feel like it's almost a necessary like prereq.
Yep. That's
if you've
where
had
you learn.
like, any kind of moderate success, like yourself and I, it's just like you need to go through the little fuck ups.
Yeah.
And like, damn, I should have done that.
Exactly.
To like realize this is where I'm at now. This is where I can go.
Yep.
Because if you don't get that, that's where I feel like you potentially fall hard.
Yeah.
You know, down the road.
100%. And like, you know, I started in 2016, end of 2016. I didn't feel like until probably 2019, like I was actually, you know, catching that momentum.
Getting
like,
the groove.
Felt like I was, okay, I actually know what I'm doing. You know, people like and trust me now. I can really take this to a whole new level.
Was there any particular moment for you where you felt that other than just like getting more reps in and like meeting more people, getting more appointments?
I don't know if there was a particular moment, but what I'll say is that first year that I was in business, I did a lot of the same things every single day. And I knew where I didn't want to be. Mm-hmm. And that pushed me to where, you know, I knew that I could be. So little backstory, we're going to kind of jump back here. So when I started in 2016, I didn't have money, obviously, like I said. And
square one.
Yeah, right from the gate. Broke college kid, still trying to figure everything out. And my father-in-law, he owns a car dealership. I thought that I was just going to jump into this real estate game, start making money right off the bat.
Yeah,
exactly. I'm you know, I'm going to be driving a nice
moving
car.
and grooving.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is all going to happen so fast. And you know, reality kind of just set in within the first few months. I'm like, wow,
it's a little tougher.
Yeah, this isn't as easy as what I thought it was going to be. So I reached out to him and basically needed part-time job to, you know, to cover the bills. Student loans were starting to come in, other bills were starting to come in. So I'm like, look, I need to be able to put gas in my car, need to be able to pay these bills and everything. So I worked for him probably, and I don't know exactly, but I would say probably about a year. I'd wake up extremely early, get to the, well, I'd
you still do. It's ungodly.
And I still do.
That's why I know I can email you before 7 a.m. some days.
And I'll probably answer. And especially now since my son's been born, I'm up even earlier some days. But my dad, shout out to my dad, guy still wakes up. He's over 60 years old now. Still wakes up 3:30, 4 o'clock, 4:30, and goes on a run in the morning. And I saw him doing that. And, you know, here I am thinking that I'm going to be this, you know, big dog in the real estate game and jump in here and just make money right away. And I'm like, you know, if he can wake up at 4:30, 3:30 in the morning and work out, like, why shouldn't I? Mm-hmm. You know, at the time I was still working out. You know, I might been getting in the gym at 7:30, you know, doing my thing, kind of chilling during the morning, not taking anything really too seriously. And like I said, I saw him doing it. I'm like, you know what? Like, I need to change this whole routine. So I started waking up at like 4:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, getting to the gym, and then I would go to the car lot and I'd work at the car lot part-time, like I said, just to make some money. And I would do that until about 11:30. And then the rest of the day I'd go home. I was still living at my parents at the house at the time, and go home. I'd eat lunch, take a quick nap, and I'd hit the real estate office every day. And I'd do that 8 hours a day. So I was still working, you know, pretty much full-time as a full-time realtor. Now I didn't have a lot of business coming in, but I was doing
the activity.
And that's, you know, like we're just talking about, I was doing what I needed to do. Did I know it was going to work at that time?
No.
You know, I didn't. But I felt like if I was consistent with it and I continued to do this every single day, at some point you throw enough shit at the wall, it's going to stick.
Yeah, no, I hate to say it, but like it really is true. Especially when you're starting off something that's new and foreign, you have to just put like overactivity in.
Exactly.
And then you just over time see what actually works for you, and then you just narrow focus. But like that was like the perfect beginner's approach.
Yep.
In hindsight.
Yeah.
At least for me, listening to your story.
And I remember I was sitting down with my manager, and you know, like one of the goals, you know, we're basically doing goal setting and everything, and she's like, "What's one of your goals?" And like I said, I'm still working at the car lot at that time. I was like, I want to make this. Like I said, I was doing it full time already, but I was like, I want to get out of the car lot, and I just need to focus on real estate 100%. 2018, I started to do a decent amount of business, but I still didn't tap into my full potential.
Yeah.
Where I knew that I could be. So, but like I said, you know, looking back on it, 2019 was probably the turning year for me that I was like, wow, like I can really do this.
Yeah, we're gonna make something of it.
Yeah.
What's the most exciting thing you're doing right now in terms of like looking back on it? Like you have a team of 2 guys, and plus you have the admin who's dedicated. You got a nice team right now.
Love it. I love the team. But honestly, the most exciting thing is being a dad. Truthfully,
I love that.
You know, it's different. You know, in a lot of ways, it pulls away from some of my time that I have. But I think like that, to me, like always looking at it from, you know, especially other age, you know, you compare yourself to a lot of people, you know, whether they're in your business field or, you know, they're around your similar age, you know, you're always comparing yourself and kind of looking at other people and what's going on. And I just always, you know, those hard workers that were dads, you know, and were being present with their children and everything like that always, you know,
Resonate with you.
Yeah, exactly. Like it intrigued me. So, you know,
You can find the balance.
Yeah, exactly.
You can.
And that's huge. And, you know, obviously, so we just had, my wife just had our son, I guess 4 weeks ago now. She's probably going to kill me that I'm on this podcast already.
Oh, we talk off camera. I ran into her the other week prior to this recording. She's like, "Don't talk him up too much," which was hilarious.
You're doing a great job so far.
No, it was so funny. I only had a couple brief interactions with her, but she ran into me. It was so funny.
I let her have mom's night out for the first time that week.
Which I think every mom needs a mom's night out.
She was probably enjoying herself too. If she came up to you and was
Oh
chatting.
yeah, she just tapped me on the shoulder. Like I'm looking like, who the hell is this? Like, oh, Katie, what's going on? It was funny.
But yeah, like that to me is the most exciting thing. Just, you know, coming home. You know, my daughter's at the age now that she's 19 months, so she's a little bit more active, obviously, than the newborn, you know, but coming home and, Dada, you know, I go on an appointment and, you know, she gives me a hug out the door. Like, that to me is the most exciting stuff. But as far as from a business standpoint, like, what I get most excited about is helping the guys that are working with me. Like, my goal is to get them to succeed. You know, I want to get them to a level that they are very, you know, heavy producers. So I've only hired agents, 2 new agents that are totally brand new to the business.
And honestly, just give a little more background about you. Cutting you off, but tactfully when I say this.
Go ahead.
You're very selective in terms of like you could have way more agents working for you right now.
Yep.
Or could have way more kind of partnerships in the industry, like on paper as a team or otherwise.
Yeah.
But like you just said, and you're further allude to it, it's just you want to work with people who want to grow.
Yep, 100%. I have enough headaches, so I don't need other headaches. You know what I mean? Coming in and giving me more of, you know, a headache. So 2 guys that I hired, Travis and Jimmy, they've been great so far. You know, pretty much. I pretty much laid out the baseline of, hey, look, this is what I did. And, you know, obviously for me taking it a pretty long time to, you know, get to this point, I kind of know what works and what doesn't work. Being able to go to them and saying, hey, look, you got to do these 3 things, you know, on a daily basis or a weekly basis. And them doing that and actually bringing them to their full potential. Like I said, that's exciting to me, is to be able to see those guys
Succeed.
succeed
in their own right.
in this business as well.
What was your most rewarding transaction? You don't have to go into too much detail, but like just looking back on it.
Wow. I don't know. I feel like they're all very rewarding to me. Probably the people that are the closest to me, just them being able to reach out to me. Like, we hang out with a lot of people, on a weekend or a Friday night. We'll have some of our closest friends come over to our house, or, we'll go out, and I don't mind, talking real estate. And
I'm the same way. It's like, even if you're chilling, you're talking business.
Exactly.
It's not even you're trying to, or they're prying it out of you. You end up talking about it.
Exactly. So you would think, like, the most rewarding transaction has been, the toughest one. And to me, that isn't the case. I think it's more and less like the people that are super close to me, like my good friends, that have basically become family at this point, helping them. To me, that's probably the most rewarding for sure. I don't think I can look back and say, it was this one over here because, it was the most difficult. Obviously, we've had some tough ones in there, and, those are rewarding, but.
We always hear, like, realtors, like, we save them so much more money, but, like, to me, I really like the way you shared it. It's more of an intrinsic approach where I was able to help this person get what they want.
Yeah.
Whatever it's a dream home or their first home, or like helping them in a difficult scenario where they don't know if they can get a loan or not.
Yep.
You're just helping the people versus the actual transactional process of it.
Yeah. And, I actually tell my clients all the time, well, I should say clients that aren't, don't know me 100%, like my best friends or my friends, that deal with me. But I'm like, I'm not going to try and sell you something that, isn't going to work for you. I'm not the salesy, pushy guy. I'm going to do what's best for you. I'm going to look out for you. I know that this is probably the biggest purchase that they're ever going to make. So, if they're buying, I'm going to negotiate like hell for them. And then, if they're selling, I'm going to protect them, like,
make sure they get what they want within reason.
Exactly. Like, you're representing a seller and you get an offer. You're going to have that conversation with the seller, and they're going to ask you, like, hey, Judd, what
would we do here?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Would you take this offer? And I think I have a real conversation with them to explain, would I or wouldn't I, take that offer? So I think that is what kind of separates me. That, like I said, I'm not going to push you to do something that you're not going to want to do. I'm here to help.
I was actually just about to ask a question about what makes you different, and you just kind of answered it in terms of the transactional aspect, where it's way more kind of relationship driven. Feel free to add to it. It's just like, if someone would choose to work with you, what's the experience they're going to get?
Well, I think that's it. Basically what I explained. I'm looking out for you. I'm basically going to treat it like I'm the one purchasing the home, or I'm the one selling the home. So what would Judd do? That's kind of how I look at it. But obviously they make their own decisions. So there's been a couple times where, I've talked to a buyer and we're looking at a property and I'm like, I can't believe that they would write an offer on this place. I can't believe that they would buy this place right now. Hey, Judd, I'm interested in it. All right, we'll write it up.
Yeah.
But I'm going to, talk them through, what might
pros
be the
and cons.
Yeah, exactly. The issues that might come aboard. If they're okay with it, hey, we're going to make it happen. Like I said, I'm just looking out for their best interests. I'm going to try and save them the most money. I'm going to negotiate, for them. And I'm also going to try and, get them top dollar for their property if they decide to sell.
It's really interesting. I was talking to John, who works with us long term, the other night. It's almost like it's an emotional kind of like exchange with folks when you meet with them. They could work with any real estate agent, but for some reason they're going to choose to work with you based on how you meet them or how they refer to you.
Yep.
Same thing with me. It's just like they could work with anybody.
Exactly.
But it's even sometimes, like, if you look at the real transactional details, especially with real estate, more than even marketing.
Yep.
It's the same rate. Why are they going to work with you over someone else? It's some kind of intrinsic emotional connection, or you're advocating yourself in a certain way where like it's more of a positive mindset for them to buy into you versus someone they might be like, oh, he's just another agent.
Yeah. And I think it comes down to trust, you know.
That's the biggest thing when it comes to sales.
Trust, and I'm doing this 24/7, you know, so I'm also available 24/7, and I'm going to, anytime that you need to reach out and ask me questions, most likely, like you said, I'm probably up at 4:00. I'm going to answer your message at 4:00. There's a couple of my clients that know that I wake up that early, and I can't believe I just said this on camera, 'cause that pretty much opens up the book for everyone to message me at
Don't text Judd at 4 a.m., everybody.
I will answer. I most likely will answer. Sometimes if I'm in the gym early on, I won't look at it until I leave. But yeah,
Spring season's about to hit when this drops. It's
spring market's coming. Spring market's coming. Yeah, obviously, you know, things get crazy during that time. So give you a baseline of the agents that are with me. Travis has been with me, I think, since 2020. So he came in right around COVID year.
Yeah, which is crazy to think in hindsight.
Yep. And he kicked ass right from the gate, you know, basically did everything that he needed to, was getting transactions done. He kind of looks at business, you know, the same way that I do. He'll do a transaction, you know, and it's not someone that he knows on, you know, a friend level. And next thing you know, he's telling me that he's going to their, you know, family party or birthday party or something.
So
you know what I mean?
party?
Like that's why we do this. You know, the relationships that you build just become closer knit.
Oh, I'm a firm believer.
Yeah, than what it was before. Last year he had a lot going on. You know, was getting married, building a house, and everything. And this year, I just feel like he's got all the weight off of his shoulders. So I'm excited to see
Expand a little further.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what, you know, potential he's going to be able to tap in. I'm excited for that. And then Jimmy Kernick, he started with me last year, and guy has a lot of connections. Reminds me a lot of myself when I first got into the business. Young, he comes from car sales as well, which Travis did. And I know that those car salesmen, they know how to work. Jimmy, he's been, I think, like 6 months now. It's like June or July, summertime.
He's fresh.
Yeah, he's fresh, but like we're doing the right things. And he's like, I got, you know, people in the pipeline and everything. So I'm excited for him. And I think the spring market, like once it rolls around, that, you know,
he's gonna be seeing it.
Yeah, he's gonna start to
shout out to Big Jim real quick though.
Shout out to Big Jim's. Big Jim's his dad.
I love his dad.
Have you been there at Big Jim's?
I did some work for his dad. We did some really brief work at this. Did some work for him at the time, like almost like some spot work.
Yep.
Didn't do anything long term, but I got a heart for his dad.
Yeah,
he's a great guy.
Super cool guy. Big Jim Seafood. You know, go check it out for sure.
Freaking great food too.
Yeah, great food. Honestly, I was never in there until I met Jimmy, and it very, very neat, you know, bar, restaurant.
You wouldn't think it either.
No. But I'm excited to see what he's going to do because he's got a lot of connections. He's got, you know, that restaurant atmosphere that he's been around.
You can plug it in.
Yeah, guy was in sports, you know, so he's got a lot of connections as well. And then our full-time assistant, Nikki, who's been working with us, I think now a little over 2 years. She's a killer, man. She had no real estate background before she joined us, and she came in here like she knew exactly what she was doing this whole entire time.
That's awesome.
So, you know, we're very thankful that we have her, and she just got licensed. So shout out to her as well.
Okay.
So that's another thing that, you know, she has in her back pocket as well. And, you know, hopefully she can sell some things on the side too.
Cool. All right. Well, I know Marty's signaling for a last call. Anything else you want to talk about, man? Really happy to have you on today.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. Like I said, you know, coming in this atmosphere. This is not something that I do. You know, we have.
You're doing it pretty well.
Yeah,
I must say
we have this conversation. You know, talking about myself, I really don't. You know, there's not feel like too much about me that, you know, I want people to know. But if there's anything, you know, I want. If anyone's out there thinking about getting in entrepreneurship or building a business, like, don't give up. Like, I know
it's corny.
I know it's so cliche. And, you know, you probably hear all the people on Instagram, social media, whatever it is, telling you that. But, like, I'm telling you right now, it's worth it. You know, never having to work for anyone, you know, but yourself. And, you know, the sky's the limit for you, you know, and you can make this whatever you want it to be. Just don't give up. You know, I thought about giving up a million times, you know, and there's even after I've had some success in the business, you know, I'd get to a transaction, super stressful transaction, and I would think, hey, this is going to be my last transaction.
Like, fuck this.
Yeah, exactly. I'm fucking done.
No, you get the end of your rip sometimes.
And you know what? Then you walk out of that settlement, and you know your buddy contacts you about buying or selling a property, and you're like, this is why I do it. This is why I do this.
The good, bad, and ugly.
Exactly. And there's going to be that. So, you know, if I could give any advice to anyone, that's what it would be.
It goes back to your whole sports background. It's just like you see players like in a post-game interview. They win the game.
Yep.
And they say, I had a bad game.
Yep.
I mean, they're pissed off. Like you said, like, I'm fed up.
Yep.
But you keep playing.
You keep playing.
And you really have to keep playing when you look at the end goal.
Yep. And I was a big Michael Jordan fan growing up. Still watch his highlights to this
I think
day.
He's the best NBA player
I
all
probably
time.
have like his 100%.
People say LeBron.
No.
And
I like
Jordan.
I liked LeBron growing up, but Jordan is 100% hands down best player of all time.
Fucking killer.
Yeah. And you know, one of his quotes is he's missed, you know, I forget what it is, 900 game-winning shots or whatever, but he's also made, you know, X amount. And I don't know the exact quote. I think I have it hanging up in my
Marty
office.
might have to put in post-production over us talking.
You might have to do that,
Correction.
Marty. Yeah. I have the quote hanging up in my office. But basically, you know, you got to take the shot in order to fail or succeed.
Correct.
So, you know, like I said, if he never took those game-winning shots, he's not Michael Jordan.
Now,
At least to the Michael Jordan that we know him to this day.
on that note, take your fucking buckets, everybody out there. Judd Gemmill, it's been a pleasure.
Appreciate you having
Thank
me,
you for
brother.
coming on, brother.
Thank you.
I had a blast. Take it easy.